just to start off, I think it's really important that agriculture is recognised as part of the rural economy.
Totally agree.
And this is something that the NFU were just trying to push, that people realise just how much agriculture and also all the service industries that hang off it do so much for that rural economy and how much it supports rural tourism. So we're looking probably today to look at the things that we kind of need to sort of help us do business, and things like planning and connectivity, adding value to products, procurement, skills, uplifting skills, and all those sort of things. So this is really kind of what this discussion is about, and anything else that you can think of. We've already got some questions have come in. I'll just go through these questions, but it wants to be more of an open debate. So please, everybody, just chip in. Kim and our teams had sort of prior sight of the questions, so they can give a bit of immediate feedback, which is really, really good. So I'm going to kick off, and there's a couple here from that Graham put forward. So the first one was I'll put the specs on. What will be the main benefits? Excuse me, and I've got a bit of a cough. What will be the main benefits of the proposed tourism tax to rural communities? Graham, if you want to add anything onto that initial question.
Not a huge amount. I know that it's been in the news a little bit recently, and you were talking about it on the radio.
Yes, I feel I've talked about nothing else since we started talking about it. And actually there's a couple of questions here. I noticed there was one further down which was about driving rural tourism, and so it's connected for me. So I think we've been constantly short on the money that we need to drive more tourism investment in the region. The industry, so culture, creative industries, tourism, hospitality, it's worth about £6 billion to our local economy and employs about 60,000 people, and yet out of all of the places in the country, as I would say, the most beautiful and the most attractive and the most appealing, we have fewer overnight stays than anyone else. And that's because we haven't had the money to invest in the campaigns that drive people to the region, whether they're local or overseas. It's because when we're able to, we put on amazing events, but they're very expensive, they're intensive, and naturally people will question, if they haven't got the services they need, why are we investing in those events? Well, the truth is that it drives tourism. And so a tourist tax, an overnight levy, as I prefer to call it, will give us a pot of cash, which is ring-fenced specifically for that. And for me, that's about local and major events into the region. It's about attraction campaigns that are all about helping to drive business into rural areas and outside of just our kind of major cities and the usual tourist hotspots. And it's about business support for tourism and hospitality in the region. So we know that other parts of the country are doing this almost on a city level basis. We know that whenever you go to Europe or anywhere else in the world, quite often you pay an overnight levy. Nobody gives it any second thought whatsoever. It's not punitive for businesses at all. It doesn't affect their bottom line. But what it will give us is that pot of cash that's all about driving tourism. And for me, the really critical thing is not the usual places all the time, but actually pushing it out into more of I'll say the county because we're in Northumberland, but actually the whole region.
Is anybody here actually diversified into tourism greatly? Have we got anybody?
Yeah, we've got a couple of holiday cottages. I don't know how that might affect. We used to do B&B, but we've just basically more or less stopped doing that. But I think if it's not something that people are going to overly notice, as in what's going out, I think it's a little bit of a lot of people can add up to quite a lot, can't it? So that is hopefully, we'll pay a levy on lots of things, don't we?
What we want to try and do is keep it as simple as possible, because what I don't want is for it to be labour intensive for small businesses. So people like yourself who have, there's a couple of holiday cottages on your land or your B&B on the side or whatever. There's loads of that in Northumberland. So I don't want it to be labour intensive. So we're working through the governance just now as to what it looks like, how we'll deliver it. But we're doing that really crucially with the hospitality sector, so people like the Association of Hoteliers and other organisations and bodies that represent and work with people in the tourist industry will help inform what we do, and we'll keep the levy at a sensible level. I went to Vegas and it was like $36. Like, no, thank you. I mean, we're talking about a couple of quid
I guess one of the questions is for, especially for the more remote rural areas, which do have quite a lot of B&Bs and holiday cottages, is how do you keep that money in those areas and it doesn't end up getting siphoned back to the likes of your Annick Gardens and your big events? Because if you think about it, there is a danger of pulling money from where they actually need it to the places that don't really need it. So
I totally get that, which is why I think when we're talking about a programme of events or rural business, or hospitality business support, it is about coverage. So naturally, when I go on the radio and talk about events, people are thinking about, we had the Women's Rugby World Cup in Sunderland, and we had not so long back the Rugby World Cup in Newcastle, and we've got things like the Great North Run and all these major events. But another example, a good local rural example, is we funded Ad Geffrin to do a Yule celebration. Obviously, lots of knock-on impact there to the pubs, the people who have rooms in and around that kind of rural Wooler area. And so it's trying to put the things on in places that matter and really assist those businesses to increase their overnight stays.
And could you see any support going towards the little local shows, the agricultural shows?
I think all of it's on the table, and I think we need to have a discussion about how exactly that money will be spent. But for me, it's doing it at a regional level allows us to make sure that those smaller villages and towns get as much benefit as the big cities. I think there have been schemes proposed in the past, and Newcastle have been looking at one recently where it's just them getting it, and just hotels, not other kind of smaller businesses. You don't yield as much cash. It means that the problem kind of perpetuates itself, and the same things happen in the same places. And what we need to do is push the benefit out into more rural areas.
Excellent. Any other comments on this particular?
No, I mean, I don't have one myself, but Dave Stanners did call me and said that they'd put in a couple of shepherd's huts and that it would affect him having the tax on it, and he just wanted to make sure that it was mentioned today, but obviously it has been.
I think people are nervous about the idea that it might put people off, but we're going to see this everywhere, so it'll come in, and it'll come in Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, South Yorkshire. Scotland are already doing it in parts, and so it will become the norm in Britain in the same way as it's become the norm across the continent. I think the Tees Valley are saying they won't do it, but I don't think you're going to look at rural Northumberland and think, I won't pay that £2, I'll go to the Tees Valley. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. And so for me, making it as simple and as administratively easy for people like that to process, and making sure that people feel the benefit of a drive for more tourism is the key. I'm talking about massive campaigns. You get on planes and you sort of see on the TV campaigns for different regions of France, different regions of the States. We've never done anything like that before. And so we've never had the cash to do it, so that's the idea.
Excellent.
I think that if you do that, it must be made so that people can access that money simply, instead of having to jump through all the hoops that we all have to do now to get anything back, because that way it'll then filter out that it is a success. But if people try and access the money and get bogged down in the paperwork, then it'll not go down well. It's
honestly, it's something that I feel very strongly about. So we do a range of, through the authority, a range of grants, from little community grants, which are up to £10,000 for community organisations, and those are unbelievably simple to apply for, unbelievably easy to evaluate, very little groundwork in, right through to multi-million-pound business support grants, which are much more labour intensive for obvious reasons. And the idea is it's got to be tailored, hasn't it, to the sort of organisations that are accessing it. So if I'm asking small hospitality businesses to fill out reams and reams and reams of paperwork, they're just not going to do it. So no, that's not what we want at all. You have to have a direct relationship between the kind of cost and the benefit.
Excellent.
Sorry.
It's all right. We're all busy. Totally get it. Much more important things to do.
Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. There is a £10 fine for see Rachel, she's collecting. Excellent. Anybody else got anything they'd like to add to that?
Excuse me, sorry, that's 4 as well on Kevin.
You're fine, man.
20 quid.
But I think, like,
Cheeks, mate.
the things that I can't get across strongly enough, it is not a tax on the businesses themselves. It is nothing off anyone's bottom line. It will be dead simple. It is entirely for tourists, and the money will be ring-fenced. It will not be spent on other things.
You are on film here.
Yeah. And I've said it over and over again, and I mean it.
Excellent. Right, shall we move on? Fantastic. I've got 3 questions, and they're all to do with education and skills gaps, so I'm going to try and combine them all. And Graham, you sort of asked how can the adult education budget help fund skills gaps in the rural workforce. I don't know if you want to just sort of enlarge sort of...
I don't really know what's available. I just, looking at what you were in control of.
Yeah, well...
obviously we've got Kirkley Hall, which when we were younger was...
It was a place, wasn't it?
It was. We don't really. It seems like a lot of the young ones now leave the area, don't they, to go to colleges.
Well, this is quite a broad subject. Because we're talking about adult education. We're talking about apprenticeships. And I say, Rich, you talked about trying to sort of support apprenticeships or retaining programs for young people and career changes in agriculture. So it's about getting that value into the training of people in agriculture, because I think sort of, I'll go back to my era when I was at school. Agriculture was just seen as one of those jobs you went to if you couldn't do anything else, and that's certainly far from the case now. I mean,
it's clearly not the case, is it?
There's a lot of technology there to drive a tractor, to work with animals, so it's actually a very highly skilled job, and I think we need to appreciate that to start with. That needs to be appreciated, but we also need the facilities to train people, and we've lost Newton Rig in Cumbria, which was one of the main, that was a good college. It seems that Kirkley Hall hasn't stepped up to the plate yet. It's quite a shame, because as was already said, it was certainly one of the premier colleges in the country for sheep. So yeah.
I think as well, if people have to go to external colleges and out of the county to do these programmes, they have to get apprenticeship jobs near them.
I was going to say they might end up leaving.
People out of the county.
Yeah, that was a point that somebody raised actually in a previous conversation.
Yeah. There's quite a few that end up going down to Bishop Burton or Askham Bryan in Yorkshire. And
Totally.
I mean, what did you do, Rich? What was your sort of track into?
Yeah, I mean, I did Bishop Burton, but I only lived 15 minutes away from it at the time.
I was going to say, you sound like you're from that end of the region.
Yeah.
So let me try and break it down into sort of 3 bits, because it is complicated and there's loads going on, but there's also loads more we can do. So I think I'm going to start up front by saying we're gradually changing what the skills landscape looks like in the region. So post 19 skills, so only for those over 19 years old, is devolved to us. Now, I'll go back to why I find that frustrating and what we're trying to do about it in a minute. But what that means is funding into colleges, funding into things like apprenticeships, boot camps, all of those things for people who are already over 19. So we work with Durham, East College Durham, and Kirkley Hall on countryside management and agriculture diplomas. Those are already in place at level 3 level. So the courses that you probably already know about that are at those colleges at Kirkley Hall and at East Durham, we're already funding those and already trying to put more people through them. There's also a range of kind of skills boot camps, which are the sort of shorter courses, which are for people who are not currently in work or training, sort of 6-week intensive courses, which again are funded and supported already. But as we've only just taken control of that region wide, we're now starting to look at what are the skills gaps across the region, working with the sectors that are in our growth plan, including obviously rural economy, to work out where the gaps are and figure out how we can better support and fill those gaps. And so some of that will be with colleges, some of it will be with rural businesses, some of it will be with local skills providers, and there's quite a few of them in and across Northumberland. So you'll probably start to see some of that change. But we know that there are people who either want to switch into agriculture and into farming, or into the rural economy. We also know that there's people who need to retain, help you to upskill workforces and that kind of thing. So that's stuff that's already happening at the moment. The other thing that we're doing, and places like Morpeth Rugby Club have really helped with this, they're hosting an event quite shortly, is we've now got access into, I think, about 500 schools across the region to do like early careers. And a range again of agricultural businesses, some farmers and others are helping us by literally going in and talking to young people about the careers that they can go into in the rural economy and what that really means, whether it's about food production, whether it's about environmental management, agricultural management, countryside management, all of those things. It's for me a case of starting to talk to those kids when they're like 7, 8, 9, rather than wait until they're 16 thinking about leaving school and then trying to get them to think about it then. And that I think is really exciting, and I think I've got details here. In fact, it's this week, so on Thursday, Morpeth Rugby Club are hosting an event which obviously we've funded and supported.
We've got a table at that.
Yeah, well that's really good. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
And that'll be brilliant. Apprenticeships in 16 to 19, I feel frustrated. We want that devolved to us as a region. You know, we don't currently control it. It's controlled centrally by the Department of Education or by the DWP, depending on kind of what it is. And I think that creates gaps. And I think the industries where it creates the biggest gaps are in things like farming and agriculture and in things like construction, because they're the jobs that people make a decision that they're going to go to straight from school. So, you know, if you're 16 and you want to go into a vocational education, or if you want to go into an apprenticeship at the moment, I can't fund you. You know, and so we're lobbying government, working with government to try and resolve that, because we think that that will have huge benefits to things like the rural economy. But it's a massive focus for us, because you opened up at the beginning by saying, you know, we want these industries to be taken as seriously as others. It's 12% of our economy in the region. That is not insignificant, it's huge.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for that, food security, all of those things that we think about, that these industries are critical to, we need to be able to provide the right people.
I think it's important to understand that certainly I'm going to use my son as an example of somebody who reasonably clever but not academic, but very clever practically. And I think there's a lot of kids out there who are not academic who start to fall through the gaps when they get to about 14 years old, because school's not really working for them. And I do think they need a quick route into vocational training.
Yeah.
Because if by the time they get to 16, 17, they're starting to they can go wrong big style. And I think it's important that's recognised, that difference between the academic and the kind of practical hands-on. And it's they're just different skills and different talents, and I think they need to be let loose very early.
I could not agree with you more.
Go down that path. It's a really important
Honestly,
thing. That's my own.
That 16 to 19 thing for us is so important. If we can get that, you know, we'll start. I firmly believe we'll start to see reductions in the number of young people who fall out of, you know, the workplace and become what's known as NEETs. It's just totally unnecessary. There's a route for everybody, but you know.
I was just going to say that. I think it's not just agriculture; it's a sort of a primary industry skill set.
It completely is.
You know, I mean, and it's sort of. I think it's compared to when I came into agriculture, I think it's better than it was.
Yeah.
It was seen as a little bit of a dumping ground.
That's improved.
You know, and you know, and like we're just on the tree plant at the minute, and you just treat the guys doing it like they've got nobody coming into forestry, and there's a huge. I mean, we're talking about agriculture's deficit. Where timber's we import 82% of our timber.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of courses. We fund a couple of courses to try and increase that, but it's those. You know, if I had a quid for every time somebody said to me, "Weldon," you know, it's all of these sorts of industries where once upon a time there was a natural flow of people into them, and now there isn't in the same way. And what we need to get across is these are really good careers with really good prospects, really good opportunities. And so things like the fair on Thursday. So at that we've got the National Park, National Trust, North East Grains, the university. So obviously for those who might want to progress and do this at a degree level, Kirkby Hall, Northumberland Skills, NFU, the list goes on. I think highlighting that, but the quick routes for us, that's the thing we really, really want to be able to change, because
I'm conscious. We've got two guys who employ people more than the rest of us, Rafe and David. And Rafe, what's your situation in terms of getting staff and what's it like at the moment?
It's easier than it has been. It was very difficult.
Right.
After COVID and things, there are sort of more people out there. It's easier for us to find people to do production type jobs, but to find, as we all know, a good tractor driver or farm worker is nigh on impossible, and creating a real roadblock. I mean, I've read about there's a contractor guy who's just packing in his business because he can't find enough staff. So.
What do you think the barrier is?
One thing that amazes me that is a bit different is the amount of 19, 20-year-olds that live rurally that haven't passed their driving test.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, when you speak to them, they say, "Oh, I'm trying to book a test in, but I can't." And they're looking at trying to book a test in for July.
So test availability.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really funny because my friend in Felton, her 2 kids, they can't get a driving test for 11 minutes.
Yeah, and like for
they just can't get one.
For our business, which is all outside, like we can't insure, like we can't have them because we can't insure them if they've not got a driving license or a tractor test or something like that.
So to work.
Yeah, so we can't physically take them on, which is good. Sorry,
we can take that away and make some inquiries about what the actual state of play is and make some representations, because if it's actually affecting the economy, then that's completely counterintuitive. It's not just about people waiting because they want a driving licence, it's people waiting because they need a job.
Yeah, and it affects the economy, but it must also affect their lives. Like, I don't know how they function. Like ones that live in Neverwhitten and things like that in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Very difficult.
But also, I hate the idea of, no doubt we'll talk about buses at some point, I hate the idea that young people would be making educational choices on the basis of where they can physically get to. You should be making an educational choice on the basis of what you want to do. And I think we are a bit stuck like that because of issues like that.
I think one of the problems that we have as agricultural contractors, which we do, and you're the same there, is that we want people to work 7 days a week. And that nowadays is, I think that we, as farmers, we'll end up going back down to a 5-day week and telling our customers, look, we can't get the staff to do it at weekends because they don't want to do it. Because all their friends finish at 3 o'clock on a Friday, and they're still driving around in a tractor for idiots like me. So you can see why it's quite a unique job. And
so like the shift work element of it,
And these, machines that they drive, some of them are worth £500,000. You can't put an idiot on them anymore. You used to be able to just shove anybody on.
But yes, it's all those long hours, and they can probably go and find a job doing something else for better pay.
Exactly.
We'll not use that clip on the.
and some of that.
I know what you mean, though. You can go and do a job where you will be done at 3 o'clock on a Friday, and so what you're actually looking for is people who have a passion to work in the industries, and also
there's less of them. So then, is it some sort of education? Because if people aren't from a rural area, they probably don't think about a career in agriculture. So perhaps there's some education then, just to give them that idea.
Do you take part in any of? Did you know about the early careers stuff that we're doing, and is that the sort of thing you would, as a business, be thinking about? I could get involved in that and start to talk to young people.
I don't know anything about it, but we certainly look at it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some info out through you guys, because I think there will be, just like anything else, there will be in that pool of businesses going out to schools a whole lot of what you expect and a much small amount of sort of, oh wow, that's totally different. And I think the, oh wow, that's totally different appeals to so many more kids than we ever.
There's a perception though by quite a lot of kids, especially in more urban areas, that to be a farmer or involved in agriculture you have to be a farmer.
Yeah.
So it's that there's so much of a wider agronomy, feed reps, merchants, all of that wider circle that people just disregard. So it's options are there.
Yeah.
One of the things unique to this area is that a lot of the farms have now become great big farms. You know, we have Percy Farms, we have Lilburn Estates, a little bit Geordie, you know, you've got more farms. So there's less farmer sons and less farmers worker sons there. You know, the pool has disappeared.
Yeah, yeah.
Because where there was 20 farms who all employed probably 2 men, there was like maybe 20.
You're sort of losing the hereditary element. Yeah.
David?
We had quite a positive experience about it. Lucy came to work for us. She lives in West Denton, and she's from a non-farming family. She went to Kirkley for 2 years. And she came to have a go with us at COVID. She didn't have a driving licence, and we put her in a tractor. Now she spreads all our fertiliser. She's 22. She spreads all the fertiliser, drives a combine. We got given £1,500 through the Kickstart scheme.
Yeah.
That I wasn't entirely sure what it was for, so I just said to her we'd blow it on qualifications on her until we finished. She got a PA 1 and 2 to drive a sprayer, and ironically she passed a sprayer test when she was 19. She couldn't drive it until she was 21 because it was too heavy. And there's nothing, she's not prepared to have a crash. And I thought at the beginning, so we put her up in a static home at home, and then she goes back to West Hampton at the weekends. But I thought at the beginning of her career, I sent her to Alnwick Football Club to the NFU Health and Safety Day.
All right.
And the elder people there were moaning that the young people weren't any good, they weren't interested. And Lucy, being Lucy, who's fairly forthright, she put her hand up and says, "No, it's your fault, you're not giving us the chance." And she's taken it. Yeah. And it was quite a risk when you say these expensive machines. Here she was, age 18. And she's prepared to get stuck in and drive a combine.
I love that story.
One day, and she remembered driving it from the year before, and it refreshed her over the phone. And there she was, and Mum and Dad came up, and there she is, you know, with a 35-foot combine. Not a problem.
We would love to meet.
To give them a chance.
We'd love to meet Lucy and hear her talk about what made her want to do it. Because actually,
she likes to talk.
Good. But because actually, that's the sort of thing. You know, what did you say that others should be saying? Like that's the question, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm just prepared to give it. I'm prepared to give anyone a go.
Is it because you make crisps?
She's good at South, but I'm prepared to give anyone a go. And she came, and I just thought I wouldn't say you've had the brass neck, but you've had the confidence to come and ask.
Yes,
so
yeah.
At least I would go. I mean, come for a week, no strings. If you know, we're part company, but that was it. So
I love that. But yeah, it would be really good to meet her and understand.
She was on the.
What made her want to do it?
Taste of Northumberland did a video. Not long ago, she's in that.
Oh.
I think going off personal experience as well, like as a woman doing like an agricultural degree, I worked on a farm from whilst doing my degree, and I had a boss that was similar to David that actually gave me the chance to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to this isn't any, but like some people just sometimes would think, oh, they're young, they're not going to be any good type thing. But I had a boss that would not give a bother about what it was. He just gave me the chance to drive it, to operate it, to work with other sheep, and that type of thing does give you the confidence. I think it does depend on the employer as well. So it's a similar experience of if you let people to do it, then.
Yeah. Do you think that there's missing support? Sorry, I've totally hijacked.
That's absolutely no crack on. You're fine.
Do you think that there's missing support for farms and agricultural businesses, almost for guidance as to how to do that and how to bring people on and how to?
I was going to say that, I think
how to get away from that, how to get away from the kids that just grew up doing it,
so they don't, so miserable and scary. I think some of them are.
You said this to me last time. You just said this to me last time.
Yeah, and I think farmers, I'm letting you off the hook here a little bit, but I think farmers got to take a lot of the responsibility for bringing young people in. But but
there's things we can do to help that.
There are good. I think what we want to achieve. There are some really, really good farmers across the northeast, and at the moment we're not getting that kind of peer-to-peer stuff, whether it be about bringing on new members of staff, whether about new approaches, new bits of kit. We're looking at using actually Kirkley Hall and Hoffle down in the south as kind of centres of excellence, if you like, to kind of bring farmers together to share best practice, because I think that the idea that a combined authority comes in and tells farmers how to farm or how to take on new bits of kit. It has to come from the farming community. But what we can do is provide the environment for you to do that. And then I think the second thing worth mentioning is actually something that you did before Christmas, which was we did an early careers fair in the offshore wind space.
Yeah, it was
and what
great.
we said is that we're going to do a kind of a set of events, of which, some of it will be offshore wind. There's a huge opportunity. But if we did one in the middle of Northumberland, might it be about kind of rural green careers, agri-tech? Might it be about landscape management? We can do that.
But what's interesting here is that actually, do we need to take that into town? So is the issue that what we do is go, well, you're in rural Northumberland, so we should give you an agricultural jobs fair. And you live on the Tyne, so we should give you an offshore wind jobs fair. When actually, it's probably much more obvious to those kids growing up in rural Northumberland what's here, and less obvious what might be on the Tyne, and a lot less obvious to the kids growing up in Walker and West Denton about the rural careers. I wonder whether there's a conversation to be had about
It does get a bit stereotyped, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
If you live in Blythe, then you're going to be an offshore wind worker, and if you live in Warpeth, then you'll be a farmer. But I think there's also probably need to recognise that it's the same broad skill sets. We're talking about mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. We're talking about agricultural engineering is a set of mechanical, electrical engineering. That's the same skill set that you need to do a lot of the offshore green energy work. So. But it's quite, in some ways, it's quite a nice problem to have that we're talking, with respect to young people, that we're talking about, all these multiple career types and the fact that there's not enough young people to go into them. That is quite a positive position to be in if we play it right.
I think what you've got to do is start and break down actually what you've just said is actually what you're expected to do now on farm. Because I think the perception is it's grabbing a sort of a grape and shoveling muck. And it's not that at all, and it's effectively the kit that you're going to be handling is going to be very similar to what's plant and machinery that you'd find on a construction site or an industrial unit. You're going to need some of the same qualifications. You're going to be using, especially on the arable side, your sprayers and all that comes into sort of qualifications. So it's probably trying to open it up to sort of it's like an onion, peeling it all back to show these are the actual individual jobs.
Yeah.
And we had the vet in the other day with a student, and he was a guy from Hong Kong, which I thought was rather strange. His mother was American, his father was British, and I said to him, "Must be a first strange thing for you to sort of want to become a vet from Hong Kong." He says, "No," I said, "I just didn't want to work in an office, and I like animals." And he said, "I thought veterinary was for me." And he's obviously clearly an intelligent guy, and he'd gone down that line. And he said, "I'm going to go back to Hong Kong, and I'm going to treat small animals because there's a lot of money in that." Mm-hmm. Fair dues. So it's kind of just sort of understanding all the different little sectors that there are that people can specialise in.
I think as well, I did a round table in a pub in Weardale about 6 weeks ago, and you go and you have this is what we're doing now, this is what we plan to do, and we spent most of the time there. And Northumberland's better served for this, although still not. It's definitely not perfect. Talking about how there's places there that literally cannot get a Wi-Fi, and how do you manage a business the size of a farm without Wi-Fi and all of that kind of thing. And we had a quite lengthy conversation about agri-tech and the move to more technology and AI and all of that kind of thing. And so I think again, young people are equipped to think about these things in a way that the generation before them aren't, and there's a huge opportunity.
Well, that kind of neatly leads into one of the next points that we're going to make, which was about connectivity.
Yeah.
And what's the authority's strategy for improving broadband mobile coverage in rural areas to support the modern farming practices and rural businesses. And Tim Robson, who lives up on Otterburn Ranges. Tim, if you want to just give Kim a bit of an overview of your situation and maybe like to expand on that.
Yeah, following on from what we've just been talking about, I have two daughters who were born in Hexham, went to school in Ponteland. So that was a 35-mile trip every day, 70 miles for us to go and get them every day. Both of them live in London now. They didn't want to be farmers, so we failed to encourage the next generation completely. And we said, why don't you, your mother, my wife and I run the farm together. mother and father dead keen, why wouldn't you want to be a farmer? And we don't have mains electricity, we don't have any phone signal in the house. We have got a Starlink now, so we are actually connected. It's come very much too late for our daughters who have made their careers outside farming, and it was the mud and graft of the hardship of what they see their parents doing, compared with the modern expectation, I guess, of what a good career is. And so they've gone off, and we have absolutely no doubt that they're going to stay away and follow their careers in other parts of the world. So we don't have any facilities that the rest of the country just takes for granted. And we register our interest to have fibre come up to us or whatever. I mean, Starlink has been a big sort of boost for us, that we now can have a mobile phone that works in the house. But most of the time, our cows calve half a mile away, so we can't tack on to the modern things of having alerts or whatever from them. And there's just lots of little things that
sort of still doing things very manually.
Still feeling back in the ages to compete how we should be is still very difficult. And it's been kicked down the road, and because we are, I guess, at the limits, because we live so far away, we're going to be the last person to ever get any of these things. And I just kind of do get it, but at the same time, we pay our same taxes, same as everyone else.
Completely.
Why should we be left out?
No, I totally agree.
It's and actually the government's going to charge on the electric cars on a mileage basis. Well, that hits rural communities hardest, because just like us, we used to do such a lot of travelling just to keep our kids connected with the rest of the world. Any after school clubs or whatever, it just hits them straight away. And the generator thing is a pest. We have got a wind turbine and battery packs and inverters, but it is hard. I think there's a skill shortage in the servicing.
There is.
Of the generators, the wind turbines. If you want to get someone to come and look at our 6 kilowatt, it's not a big one, but it services our house. Obviously, we can't export electricity because we're not connected, so we couldn't go get a big project and export some and do that sort of thing. We've got to kind of tailor our requirements to our needs. But you can't just phone up someone and say, "Oh, come and fix the generator," because
you need a specialist.
You need a specialist, and there doesn't seem to be, most of the people that are in that job haven't got youngsters coming in. They haven't got the next generation coming in, and that is a worry for us, because you are very vulnerable when when it's your responsibility, you've got to fix it.
What did your daughters go and do, just out of interest?
One's a solicitor and one works in communications.
Right, yeah. So totally different.
Totally different, yeah. But both parents farm.
Yeah.
It was this lack of connectivity, and all their friends, and they were on their phones, and they just work at home. They couldn't watch anything on the,
no Netflix. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do. We know we totally get it, and it's frustrating because we don't have total control over it, and so we've got our environmental stewardship, coastal and rural plan, which we've put £8.6 million into, and that's for a range of things like business support. But part of that has been to get onto government pilots for improvement of 4 and 5G signal, which we've seen some dramatic improvements, but it obviously hasn't made its way right out to where you are. And then it is a case of, as much as this is not what people want me to hear, what you want me to say is, we're going to fix it. It's a case of us pushing government to say, keep going with super fast rollout, keep pushing into more and more rural areas. Don't let these contracts, because there's a lot of contracts that have been put out, skip houses. Because it's a bit too difficult, because it's a little bit too far from the main wire, which is
that's what we feel is going to happen.
Your drive's just a bit too long, or your home's just a bit too far. So kind of it is, unfortunately for us, we did do the Future Connectivity Partnership in 2024. That has seen some big improvements, particularly in mass technology, but there's so much more to do. So I think particularly this, and then the conversation in Weardale, show us just how much of a problem this still is. And so it's kind of from me just to say, we're on it, we get it, we're pushing on your behalf, but we don't control it, and it's not something that we're able to directly do.
No.
So we agree. I could totally agree. I think.
But can you lobby? You can lobby.
Yes, and that's what.
So that's important.
And along with the two MPs for the rural area, David and Joe, I know that they're both very well aware of it, and we'll keep pushing. But I have to admit that until that previous conversation, I did not know that. I mean, they were telling me stories, and it'll be the same up your way, where the fiber's being laid, and they're literally just missing houses because they're just a bit too far away from the main line.
Yeah,
it's
they did past these houses.
We can't do that. Like, this is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
We all had a very painful experience, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. I would say this community around these houses. We all fought very hard for broadband and didn't quite get there, but then we're all now connected. So a number of people use Starlink, which is very good, but I was never very comfortable with it. I was a customer of Starlink until a few months back, and then we got Almcom. So it went from a multinational with a dubious leader through to a local company.
But all joking aside, that's all joking aside. Like when Elon Musk's your only option, it's not a good place to be, is it?
Exactly, that's what we were saying. Oh my goodness, we're going to have to go and support Elon Musk. It was almost the last push, but it was our only option.
But it is true.
But it's quite expensive still. Compared with.
That's right. But the business improvements that agricultural and farming businesses would want to make, and you've highlighted them, they do need connectivity in order to operate. I mean, we've done some work with 5G where we're looking at, through the universities, where we look at all sorts of really advanced tech around methane monitoring and farms and all sorts of other stuff. It requires the connectivity, and it also requires a decent amount of mains electricity, which is another area where we as a combined authority, we were invited around the table with central government and what's called the National Energy System Operator, NESO now, and to talk about sort of really big power issues across the region, across the country. And we have to remind them there are 200 properties in the northeast that aren't connected at all, never mind talking about transmission and all the rest.
And a massive frustration for us oftentimes is, around those tables when you're there with National Grid and Northern Power Grid and all the rest of it, you get stuck talking about really, really big important issues like cables, connecting major businesses like substations, like putting cables under the Tyne so we can get bigger ships down the way and all of that. But actually, we can't forget about those 200 homes because if we can't get them connected, then what chance do we have of the bigger things? So we are dead aware, and I want you to know we're acting on your behalf, but it's not one that we can just do.
I think the other thing is data speed as well.
I know.
Because it's all very well being connected, but you've got to have the speed now, especially for a lot of the tech and stuff that's happening. And even for places that are connected, it's no good if it's just scrolling along at sort of, 1 mega minute or whatever it is.
We're so on the edge of my understanding of things at the moment that I'm glad that we've got Ross here.
It's okay. I mean, I'm sure other companies are available, but it's nice that we've got one that is ANIC based and is putting its shoulder into rural broadband and putting in decent speeds as well. So I got fibre through to my place a couple of months ago. It's at 500 meg broadband.
The change that we had when we got Almcom was huge.
Yeah, way better.
But now we need to get to you.
I think the point is it's not just for Netflix, it's actually for some pretty serious.
Because it's even for the basics now. Like if you want to access any of the government schemes, everything is now digital.
Online, completely.
Paper countryside everything is being done online.
But also accessing technology that makes your farm run better or your business run better. You need to have that connectivity. it's everything from the basics right through to, you know, the growth opportunity. Yeah.
When you are in an urban context, you do completely just take it for granted.
Yeah.
Whereas in a rural context, in a lot of cases, it can be life or death.
Good. We are singing from the same sheet on this one then.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Talking of the connectivity, the old style of connectivity was the postman every day.
Yes.
Nowadays, we're lucky if it's 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and the postman just says, oh, if our normal postman goes, then somebody else comes in who's had their overtime absolutely nailed, and he said, I'm sorry, you won't see me for the next 2 days. And so, we've had wrong mail, which is an NHS letter probably has an appointment tomorrow that's going to miss, and there's
come to the wrong house.
Come to the wrong house. But because there's no postman, and if we're not going off the farm, then that probably sit there for 3 days at the wrong place. But even the old-fashioned sort of systems were there to connect people slightly with the outside world. And even that is now very much.
You can't pull that away without replacing it with what everybody else has got.
The post office couldn't cherry pick and say, we'll go to some houses, and if they're a bit far off, we won't go there. They were made to go everywhere, and it's the same as the broadband or the signal for the telephones. They need to say everywhere must be done.
Yes.
And don't cherry pick just the bits that are going to give a good commercial response.
We completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Can we move on to something probably a bit more contentious, planning?
Yes.
There's a question here: are there plans to streamline the planning process for agricultural businesses to encourage investment and innovation? Rafe, I think this is one for you. If you want to tell your story, and I'll just put it in your hands.
Okay, so we have a grass drying system at our place at Cozy Park, just the side there one. We dry paper crumb in the winter time, so repurposing waste product coming from the paper mill at Prudhoe at Essity.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity to expand that, so put another dryer in purely to dry this paper crumb at the farm that we tenant at High Park, which is between Accrington and Felton. So that needed a change of use of the buildings because it's not technically agricultural. So we don't want to put any new buildings up, just put the drying drum outside and things, but we need a change of use. Now, we've been trying to get that for, I think, over 2 years now. Over 2 years. So, it's put the whole project at risk. We're looking to create 7 jobs through doing this, and just the planning department's an absolute nightmare. And then, I'm just thinking about this. When we built our site at Cozy Park, which was in 2019, 2020, the planning, to get the planning permission there took so long. We had an application for some grant funding because there was all the building, all the kit to go in it. I think for about 150 grand. The grant was going to be 150 grand. Because the planning permission took so long.
Inflation caught up with you.
The funder ran out of money, so I couldn't get anything.
My God.
And that's the same
purely
with this project
because,
as well.
yeah.
We missed out. We were working with funding as well, and again,
where was your funding from, just out of interest?
That one was
which the original one.
No, the one this time.
What was the
funder?
What was the grant fund? Oh, I can't remember what it's called now.
I feel like it was NB.
Yeah, BSL.
Yeah.
Northumberland Business. So we fund them. Yeah.
The reason that I'm asking is to try and basically work out whether you're being supported.
I have to say that they were incredibly supportive.
Yes,
Incredibly,
really good, yeah.
really helpful. But obviously they had deadlines and other projects that came in.
And financial years and all the rest of it. But for really often we hear stories about grant funding from businesses that comes from one part of the council and then a planning application that stops it at the other part of the council, which is what I was trying to work out.
I got the impression that they were frustrated because it matched all of the objectives that they needed to fulfil.
Yeah.
The funding.
So the answer to your question in short is yes and no. So there are moves to streamline planning processes. So some of that is at a regional level. So there will be some planning powers brought through the English Devolution Bill at a regional level. That is predominantly what you call a call-in power, and it's designed principally to speed up house building and residential. So, for example, the idea would be that there'd be a local plan Obviously, we will have a regional plan as well, regional spatial plan, and within that, there'll be areas that are earmarked for developments, different types of development. If that then gets turned down at planning, we would have the right to step in and say, you can't do that. You've allocated it in your plan. You know, it's allocated housing, it's allocated business, it's allocated this, that and the other. So you need to go forward and develop it, because you can't just say no because of local contentious issues. So that's kind of what's happening with us, and the idea is it should make the decisions smoother, because of course what planning committees won't want is for that to happen. And so things should move quicker. But this sort of pace of local planning sits in local authorities and isn't moving from local authorities. And so government are investing money to boost planning departments and to try and increase the number of people in those departments and to try and push councils to move faster and to be more streamlined. But it's, again, not something we're getting the power over at a regional level. So yes and no is the answer. Frustrating, and I have, you know, reams and reams and reams of stories like yours where it just takes too long to get a decision, because do you know what it is, right? It's that thing, isn't it? But you just want a decision, because if the decision's no, you need to figure out what happens next.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's the limbo problem. Yeah.
We're in a similar position. We applied to put a muck shed up under the government grant scheme.
Mm-hmm.
We were initially told we didn't need planning permission for it. It was an agricultural building.
Mm-hmm. So
we put the phones in, and then the planners came along and said, look, you've started this building without planning permission. The deadline for the grant, which was nearly 100,000, which is a grant, went out in December.
Mm-hmm.
So we applied for an extension, which goes out in July. And because we put the phones in, it was like a red rag to a bull to the planners, you know. So if we don't get the shed erected by July, we'll still have to put the shed up, but we'll lose £100,000 in grant funding for that. And they're just in no hurry to do anything. I don't know what you're...
I think they're so under-resourced. It's obviously they're just really under-resourced.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that injection of resource is a good thing, but it also, I mean, things like that, obviously if you want to write to me and tell me about the issue, we will kind of put it in front of the council and say, look, this is clearly an issue that needs a decision and you need to be moving quicker. But that's really just us acting on your behalf as constituents. The way that planning powers will change are about almost predetermined development in spatial plans and in regional plans and in local plans, and essentially making sure that they then happen.
I know, David, I think you've got to get away. Is there any points you want to just make before you leave?
Not especially, thank you. So I've got a Teams meeting with David Smith at 3:30.
Oh, good. Tell him I said hello. He was actually, I should have said up front, he was really keen to come to this, but he was required for parliamentary business and so couldn't get out of London early. Or would he be going late? It's Tuesday. Not sure. But yeah, he and I have talked this morning. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, David, for coming across.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
What's the cost? I mean, planning seems to be, for a lot of things, getting very, very expensive as well.
Yes, it does, and obviously all of those time delays, plus the application costs and all of the requirements, it does put strain on businesses, and time is one of the biggest ones. So we know that. So I think it's one of those again that. I'm not here to speak on behalf of government. There's some things I explicitly will choose not to. I think it's important to say that, because my job is to represent you to them, not the other way around. But I know that it's an issue that they know about and they are putting resource into. It's just how quickly that can happen.
I think if they're putting resources in, and it sounds that they're really looking to push up development, but for housing.
It's not just housing, but job creation, housing and growth.
I was going to say it's got to be for job creation. It's got to be for businesses, because I'm sorry, at the end of the day, there's no point building all these houses. Nobody's got the jobs, and it's absolutely essential. And I think. But
allocated, things that are allocated in local plans that are also about businesses and transport and all that kind of thing would fall under our.
I'll just quickly highlight one that's coming down the line, especially for a lot of farmers, not necessarily all, is water quality. So we're going to be looking probably to really step up the plate in terms of improving water quality. Mm-hmm. There'll be quite a lot of infrastructure required in terms of slurry and effluent storage. not for every farm, but that's something that's going to be required, and that'll take planning as well. So that's just one to sort of, it again, it sort of kind of hangs off what's already been said here.
Yeah.
So it's just an important one, and it's about protecting businesses and the ability to sort of to move forward. And I think
a greater public benefit.
Yeah.
Totally.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Would anybody else like to add anything in terms of planning there? Have we covered that one? Okay.
I'm taking too long to answer these.
No, you're not.
You've
it's
got
fine.
so many questions, I'm like, I'll be quicker. We could do quick fire if you want.
Absolutely.
Or you could just tell me all your ideas.
Shall we?
So I can steal them.
I don't think we actually put a question in about crime, and it's not one of your particular. It's you. I don't know what you have in terms of authority over crime, but with the PCCs changing,
yes.
And I know we've got one or two people around the table that have been affected. No, Stoker, you lost a bike not that long ago.
Yeah.
So there's been an issue in terms of crime in North Northumberland. It seems to spread around like a plague every now and again. So I guess. The question is, can we see an improvement of resources for crime prevention, and actually not just prevention, but catching those responsible and dealing with them? Can we do? What's happening down the line with that?
Let me tell you a little bit about the changes, and then I'll kind of talk a bit from my experiences having been the Police and Crime Commissioner. But then we can take away anything specific for them. Have you had the PCC in?
No, we haven't.
Oh,
yet,
you should do that. Yeah,
it's
you
on
should
my
definitely.
list to contact.
Yeah, definitely do that. Because we did a couple of things as Police and Crime Commissioner when I was Police and Crime Commissioner, and it was so valuable because you just you learn things that you didn't know about. Anyway, so government are changing the system to take police and crime commissioners out and, where possible, allocate powers to mayors. So I don't have policing powers at the moment. I was a police and crime commissioner. I think it's a really good move on a whole. But what we've got in the region is an issue with coterminosity. So I don't match the police force boundaries. So Northumbria is entirely in my area and Durham is split. So I look after County Durham, but Durham Constabulary also look after Darlington, which is in Ben Houghton's mayoral area. So that kind of creates us a problem. What we're working on at the moment is an amendment to that bill, which would mean that I would be able to take Northumbria in the next term, and it would mean probably some sort of policing board for County Durham for the time being, unless there's some sort of boundary change. So that's where we are. So that would mean that the policing powers would, in the same way as they are in Greater Manchester and West Yorkshire and North Yorkshire and a few other places, sit with the mayor instead of with the Police and Crime Commissioner. So I think that's a positive move. I think it's a direct response from what people want to see, and so we're on with that now. When I was Police and Crime Commissioner, we started off a really big rural crime programme, so we were really highly conscious that we'd had increases in rural thefts, increases in poaching, increases in nuisance off-road bikes on farming land, and a whole host of other issues. And so we had a network of rural volunteers, which was really good, increase in rural crime capacity, and we saw some really good results. I think all of that's still going on, but it's one of those where it comes in cycles and so on. So I think that investment's really important in rural communities, and I think having Northumbria is a force that's recognised nationally as knowing about these issues is a good thing. It's something that we would definitely continue to focus on. If I got those powers back, I think Susan has continued to focus on it. But not wanting to speak for her, I'll go back to her and say, we've had this conversation here, it'd be worth a conversation with the ONFU. It's been brought up as an issue again, and hopefully that'll be helpful to kind of highlight it to the Police and Crime Commissioner and maybe get a session like this in with her.
Yeah, we'll get a meeting in with her.
Yeah.
There was a guy, now I get the name right, it was Andy Huddleston. Huddleston was Rural Crime Lead. Now he finished in October, I think.
No, he's gone national.
He's national now?
Yeah, so
do we have a one... Does somebody step into his
You will
place?
have, and I don't know off the top of my head, but
Right,
we'll get that name for you. And the fact that Andy lives in our patch
He's
and
in
is
Waydale, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, and
Yes.
is national is a really good thing.
Yeah, right. Because talking to him, I think in Weardale they've set up various WhatsApp groups in terms of being able to report things really quickly.
Have all of that in Northumberland too.
And just it's maybe not, I don't know whether it's been used as well, because from what I gathered, some of it was pretty much real-time information that they could use literally on the ground. So that my bike's been nicked. Oh yeah, I've just seen a van go past with your bike on it, and it was using that. And I think that's something we probably.
We did specialist training for rural crime volunteers, and had kind of drives where people would go out, the same night, flood the area with cops, but also volunteers with police radios and all of the rest of it. And it's an absolutely brilliant way to do things. And it's sort of almost like a lower tariff special policing, a special constable for rural volunteers, and we established that in Northumberland, and it was really brilliant, really well taken up, and we went out and had a couple of nights on shift with them, and it's really effective. So I'm quite sure that's still all happening, but obviously I'm not in charge of it anymore.
Duncan,
and I do try and keep my nose out of things.
You actually lost bikes. What sort of what?
Well, I can't, like we did. The response was brilliant.
Right.
Good. We didn't catch them. There was a few people got a bit of a shock when we stopped them, But so our response, I can't compliment enough. I mean, we were very quick. We didn't get them, but there was a helicopter up and plenty. The response was very good.
Good.
We're not in a particularly remote area. It's sort of. I think the thing about it is it's sort of an emotional thing. It gets you angry, and then it gets like my mum's 80 and it gets her worried about somebody just walking into the yard. It's like being burgled, I suppose, everybody else, but we're a long way from help.
It is being burgled. It's the same crime.
Stoke, I
think I would think exactly what you were saying. The response we got from the police was tremendous. It really was. But what it highlighted to me was how lax we were. To be honest about it, we had bikes sitting in the workshop with keys in. The door was unlocked. £18 bought a key to lock the door. So you can't blame. And to be fair, the people who did it were very clever. I think if we had 4 times more police on the ground, they still would have done it. They came in via different fields. We had a lock gate at the top of the road and 3 houses on the other way in, but they came in through the fields. It was, to be honest, it was our own fault. We were, and I got a lecture off the guy, but he was right. And when you get a lecture and you know that he's right,
Unfortunately, I've been along with them where we've got to a farm and someone's had a quad nicked, and the first question is, were the keys in it? And the answer is yes. And but at the same time,
was that the quad bikes that we got were old quad bikes, sort of a little bit of part of the family, and we just used them. But now we'll have to go. We haven't bought a new ones because obviously the cattle are inside. But we'll have to buy far better machines than we need, so that's going to cost us extra money. But I can guarantee the keys will not be left in. But I went to 2 tractors last night, and I say the keys are still in there. So.
Do you know, it's so...
Some of the keys on the tractor you can just...
Well, there's only like 5 keys,
We have 11 tractors and 1 key fits them all.
I do just want to say, though, because, a lot of the time people will say it was my own fault, First of all, they shouldn't have been on your land, 1. Second of all, they're thieving, not you. But, yeah, of course, there's, precautions you can take, aren't there? But, honestly, I don't know how many tables I've sat round where... people said, I left the keys. But it's because you're busy,
Yeah, but we got them on CCTV, but they're wearing masks. It was 3:45 in the afternoon, about now. And the keys had been in 10 minutes. My brother just jumped off.
Well, some of it as well.
And they were there, and I missed them by.
So, one of the things I learned big time when I was PCC is that a lot of people have a vision of a rural criminal, somebody who's rustling sheep, nicking quads, poaching, whatever it might be, and people think of it as almost a lovable rogue sort of situation. Some of it is serious organised crime, the big made to order, stealing of kit, export of kit, organised gambling rings, all of those things are quite serious organised crime. And so they are organised and they do know how to evade the police and all of those things. So yeah, it's an issue and we know about it. And I'll let the Police and Crime Commissioner know we've had this conversation. I think it'd be brilliant if you followed up with it.
Yeah, we probably need to step up the plate and do a bit of
we'll get you
crime prevention.
We'll get you the new rural crime lead detail.
That'd be great if we can touch base.
One of the things that affected me was it took us half an hour to find my front door key. First time I've locked my front door for probably the last 10 years.
There you go, right.
Please don't tell me things like that.
Because you do it when you get used to life in the countryside.
I'm getting the signals. We're running sort of close on time. Is there anything else that anybody would like to any points that anyone else would like to make in terms of
Can I just make one thing? What I think that you should do is try and get rid of all the red tape. And I'll give you a classic example. When the snow was on the ground a fortnight ago, we cleaned all the roads out for the local farmers. There's 2 old ladies live in one of the farms. We cleaned all the roads out, which we do. And we went to Alnwick, to the highways, and asked if we could get a scoop full of salt to put on the 2 steep banks that we have. And we were told, go on to fixmyroad.com. We can't give you it here. The next day, one of our tractors went down the bank, took out 40 feet of fencing, jackknifed the tractor, snapped the PTO shaft, £1,000 worth of damage for 1 scoopful of, and that was just purely lack of common sense
from the council. We don't oversee councils, but I'll tell them that story because you are
We've had it for years. Just go down and get a little half a scoopful, put it on. We do the job for them. I said it's for your good road.
I mean, that's true actually. I mean, there used to be like little piles put out, and you could.
Do you know?
You could look after yourself, really.
It's as you know, I live local in Storm Arwen. None of us will ever bloody forget that, will we? And I live in West Thurston, and you've got the path going down into Felton, and it was absolutely no chance. Like, it was completely blocked, and of course it will not have been a priority for the council. By the time I got up the following morning, it was cleared, and you know it was one of the local farmers. You know that it was not the council who came and cleared, that it was one of the local farmers. And I just think things like that, it's much appreciated.
We appreciate that money is tight. We don't want to get paid for cleaning the road out. That's sort of part of what farmers do.
You've got the kit, and might as well.
It would nice to have been that morning to have been a little bit appreciated.
Yeah, no, but that's why I'm saying it. I think I think for local residents, it completely is appreciated. And perhaps that needs to go a little bit further. I mean, I know for a fact he'll want his paper. He wouldn't have been able to get down the road. But good, it was cleared, it was done. Everyone was very grateful. So yeah, I think the fact that needs to go a little bit further. We'll feed that in. So thank you.
Jolly good. Are we wrapping? I'm looking at the person who was in charge of timing.
I just do as I'm told.
Oh, we did? Right, okay. Well, listen, I think, first of all, thank you very, very much indeed for your time and the rest of your team. Thank you very much for